is the Patriots Drive Podcast.
We are all Patriots.
Where we discuss, analyze, and answer questions to all things happening in the NFL and with our New England Patriots. Now, here's your host, Cole Kelly.
Let's go!
All right, what is going on, everybody? This is Jace back with another live mock draft here on the Patriots Drive podcast. Today, guys, we're joined by Dylan. He runs patriots.force on Instagram. So if you guys want another great Instagram page for Patriots news, make sure you guys go follow him. But glad to have you here, man. How you doing?
Good. You appreciate you having me on the podcast.
No problem. Super excited to be doing this mock draft. Lots of kind of rumors and news coming out. In the last couple of weeks, we've had a couple pro days. We've had a couple other things, updates like that, rumors, and honestly, smoke screens and stuff. Who knows what the heck is true and what's not at this point. So a couple of the things that I kind of wanted to hit on before we get into the mock draft, before we start getting people in here. Just a couple of the quarterback pro days. We've obviously had a ton. Michael Penix did his today. Jaden Daniels was yesterday. Drake Mays was today. And then J.J. McCarthy's was a couple days ago. So out of these quarterbacks, Dylan, who do you think maybe had the best showing at their pro day, who improved their stock the most, maybe someone that caught your eye? Who do you think had one of the best pro days for these quarterbacks?
I didn't get the chance to watch a lot of the pro days. I usually keep track of them on Twitter. I know a couple of the Patriots beat guys had a lot of videos and clips of each quarterback in their pro days. One of them actually tweeted, kind of look at pro days as batting practice for baseball players. So I don't put a lot of too much stock into pro days. But overall, it sounds like Drake May and Jaden Daniels each had good pro days this past couple of days. Sounds like Drake May had a lot of velocity on his ball. It was kind of effortless for him. For me personally, I prefer either Daniels or May at the 3 spot. I haven't watched too much tape on McCarthy yet, but that's to be decided.
Yeah, I think Drake May is the one that stood out to me today. Now, he missed some early throws in the drill, but the way the ball was coming out of his hand on the deep balls, the zip on it, and then, obviously he's 3 full years younger than most of these guys. And guys like Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix, Bo Nix have started a ton of games. That's kind of the argument with McCarthy too. J.J. McCarthy and Drake May are 2-year starters, and what they've did in those 2 years is really impressive. Plus, they have all the intangibles, right? Drake May was 227 pounds, 6'4", like just a freakishly big, prototypical body. Plus, he has that strong arm. So that impresses you right off the jump with a guy like Drake May. So I like that. The other one I kind of wanted to talk about too happened today was Michael Penix Jr. He ran a 4.47 40. Obviously, he has massive hands. People were saying that the ball looked crazy coming out of his hands too. It was jumping all over the place. He hit on the connections. Now, thing is I think Michael Penix Jr. is probably the best pocket passer in this class.
I agree.
And you just didn't need to see him run, but 4.47 speed for a guy that's had 2 ACL surgeries and a ton of other injuries, pretty dang crazy in my mind.
Yeah, with Penix, in my opinion, without those two, say if he didn't have those 2 ACL tears, I think he'd easily be one of the top 3 quarterbacks in this draft. He clearly has the tools to escape from the pocket, as you can see from his 40-yard dash time. He just didn't use that at all this past season, which is kind of crazy because he was a pretty good pocket passer, I'd say.
Yeah, deep ball, everything. Like I said, the Washington offense was just kind of go, go, go. It really wasn't asking him to run a lot. And obviously he had some pressure issues in the national championship game against the University of Michigan, but he definitely showed that he can run straight line. Now, not that you're going to be wanting to run Michael Penix Jr. a ton because of his injury concerns, but 4.47 speed for a quarterback. He also jumped like 36.5 inches on the vertical. Yeah, he tested pretty dang freakishly, and he's the only quarterback that tested in any category. Not that it really matters, but you kind of saw his athleticism on display. So Michael Penix Jr. may be a guy that people are saying is a first-round lock. I really do think we get 6 first-round quarterbacks. I think it's the top 4, McCarthy, Daniels, Drake May, obviously Caleb Williams, and then I really do believe Bo Nix and Michael Penix, someone will take a chance on them in the first round.
Yeah, I think the only issue right now with Penix is the injury history. You don't see any other knock on his game besides that, really. Maybe besides the fact that he doesn't scramble as much or get outside the pocket, because that's what the game's kind of turned into. Besides that, though, it seems like the only big issue with him is the fact that he's had 2 ACL injuries.
Yeah, he's had I believe he's had shoulder injuries too, had a couple of other problems, but the 2 ACL ones are the big deal. Like 2 ACL injuries in 4 years in college football definitely something you're not worried or thinking about. So Tony says Penix also didn't throw in the middle of the field either. Maybe it was how the offense was. That was how Jaden Daniels, the same reason. That's kind of the knock on Jaden Daniels. They just weren't asked to do it a ton. Like Michael Penix Jr., Jaden Daniels had the best receiving cores in college football, no doubt about it. So they were throwing deep balls. They were throwing all that stuff. He's definitely, those guys just weren't asked to do stuff like that. Now, it definitely is a concern because the Patriots offense has never been like a down the field threat. With Brady, even with Mac Jones, they've wanted to attack the middle of the field. We'll see how that holds up with Alex Van Pelt and whoever they bring in at quarterback. But yeah, just the system that both Michael Penix Jr. and Jaden Daniels were in didn't ask a ton of that. But guys like Drake May have shown that they can consistently step up in the pocket and deliver balls in tight windows. They have strong arms. They can throw with velocity. That's kind of the reason I'm more of a Drake May guy. But both Penix and Jaden Daniels showed incredible things through their pro days.
I mean, I also saw a couple of things today on Drake May during his pro day. He had a couple of issues throwing to the outside of the numbers, which is kind of like the opposite of how Penix and Daniels' offenses were run. They were more outside the numbers, deep ball things. As for Drake May, it was more middle of the field, short stuff. It's kind of resembled a bit of the Patriots offense a little bit, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Drake May's knock is the footwork, the lack of experience, kind of the inconsistencies, but you're not talking about a 25-year-old Bo Nix or Joe Milton or a 24-year-old Michael Penix. Like, this guy's 21 years old. He sat behind Sam Howell for a year and started 2 full years in at UNC. So he has time to grow. And ideally the Patriots want to sit a guy behind Jacoby Brissett, even if it's for 10 games or so.
Yeah.
They want to sit a guy. So you take a guy like Drake May, let him sit behind Jacoby Brissett, get used to the NFL, the offense, stuff like that. I've said it before. For me, his comp is somewhere in the Justin Herbert, Josh Allen range. One, because of his body and his arm strength, but he can also run the ball too. Like, people don't understand how he's like so underappreciated athletically because there's guys like Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels in this class. People just don't think of Drake May like that, but he can definitely run the ball if he needs to.
No, I definitely agree. I've seen some comps of him being similar to Josh Allen than to, say Mac Jones. I've seen some comps out as well. I think my only issue right now with the quarterback, but this is like kind of a dumb issue, is we drafted Mac Jones 15th overall. He had a good rookie season, didn't build around him, and we saw what happened. Like, I don't want to see that happen again with one of our if we do draft a rookie quarterback this year, I want to see him be built around with some good quality players on the outside so we can excel in the offense and become better.
Yeah, I mean, no matter who's at quarterback, whether it's Jacoby Brissett, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, the team constructed right now, offensive line and receiver wise, needs to have there needs to be more talent. Not that Kendrick Bourne, Demario Douglas aren't guys like that can have a productive NFL season, but those are the same guys that Mac Jones just had, and the offense struggled severely, and so there's got to be some sort of addition in the second, third rounds of more talent than just the quarterback. And that's why this draft class as a whole, one, it's very deep at a bunch of positions the Patriots need. But definitely, two, it's got to be one of the most important ones for the Patriots in the last couple of years, just because of how many spots they need to fill. They legitimately need to fill. They probably need to double dip at O-line and receiver. I don't know if they will, but they need to get young guys there. And then obviously they need a quarterback, and there's still some defensive depth pieces that I wouldn't mind seeing them draft. So there's a need for every single pick, and you got to hit on them, unlike what we have done in the last 5 years where the drafting's horrible.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Wide receiver is probably the biggest position behind quarterback. I'd like to see us double dip at that position in this draft. I honestly wouldn't mind if this whole draft is just offensive players, and then you see a bunch of defensive, like, undrafted free agents picked up. That's just how I feel. The offense is just super below average. It was super messy last year. I like how we kind of started on a clean slate, new positional coaches and everything. I like the direction we're going in. I know some fans are upset with the way the free agent class has kind of been with our free agent signings, but I think it's just going to take time.
Well, and I think I read that there's 19 open roster spots for the Patriots currently, and there's only 8 draft picks for the Patriots. They have 1 in every round plus the one that they got in the extra 6th rounder for Mac Jones. There's 8 spots, so you're either going to have to fill 11 UDFAs, or you're going to have to trade back and maybe get an extra pick or 2 at some point. So there's got to be UDFAs or extra picks coming in at some point because, yeah, you got to fill those 19 roster spots going into camp and stuff like that. Or you go into the veteran market, guys that haven't been signed by that time and, give them cheap 1 year inexpensive deals. So that's kind of where the Patriots stand right now. But yeah, there's going to be a ton of new young faces on this team. It's just a matter of can they develop them and can they make the right choices because they haven't done it the last couple of years.
Definitely not. And I think you'll see a couple of, those veteran guys that are still in the market sign at the time of training camp, cheaper deals. Some guys they kind of take a shot on. But besides that, I think you go into the draft. Would you say 19 are open spots right now?
Yeah, I believe I read 19 somewhere.
Yeah, so I see. Me, if they come out of the draft, filling 10 of those spots, picking up a couple of free agents, and I think you can see anywhere from like 6 to 8 UDFAs on this team come the fall.
And we do know that there's been a ton of UDFAs that have made the Patriots roster. Now that was under Belichick, but usually there's one a year. So there's going to be someone, there's going to be a lot of roster spots they have to fill, but there's going to be someone that most likely has a chance to make the team. So, but
you hope so.
No, we'll see. Brennan Schooler was a great UDFA a couple of years ago, and now he's the Matthew Slater replacement. So we've had success with them. We've had success with UDFAs coming out of the draft. So, well, we're going to jump right into this mock draft. Okay, guys, we're going to use PFF's mock draft simulator here. Okay, so we're going to be going 5 rounds. Trades are open. So if we feel like we need to make a trade down or make a trade up, we're going to have the opportunity to do that. And obviously, we want to hear all your guys' thoughts in the comments. Make sure that you guys throw in who you think the Patriots should draft or what they should do. So do you have any preference? Obviously, we're going to see how the board falls. Right off the bat, like who would be your dream pick at number 3? I know we kind of talked about the quarterbacks, but who would be your dream pick there?
Dream pick is if Caleb Williams somehow falls to 3 and he ends up there. I'd say that's my dream pick. But realistic dream pick, I'd say Jaden Daniels.
Okay.
Just to bring a different kind of aspect of quarterback play to New England, something that we haven't seen probably ever, besides maybe Cam Newton in his first 4 games before COVID.
Yeah. So if it was Jaden Daniels and Drake May on the board at pick 2 or pick 3, say that the Commanders somehow go JJ McCarthy like the rumors said, you're going to go Jaden Daniels over Drake May?
Yeah, I'd probably go Jaden Daniels over Drake May.
Okay.
That's only because I haven't dug super deep into Drake May yet. I started off my offseason by watching a lot of tape on Daniels, so I got kind of overhyped with him. But I still got time to get some love for May, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and I've said this on my Instagram page. I've said this before on Patriots posts and stuff. Like, for me, Jaden Daniels is number 1. Then Marvin Harrison is number 2 for me because I just believe that you can't. It's so hard to pass up a surefire pick like Marvin Harrison is in my mind. Plus, we have not had the Patriots have that guy. Then if none of those, if Drake May and Marvin Harrison Jr. are gone, then I think trading down with like a Minnesota and getting 2 picks this year would be the best. And then I think Jaden Daniels. Now, I'd be excited if any of those 4 things happen. Like, I'm all for a trade down because we need more players. We need future picks. This is more than a 1-year rebuild. I'm all for Jaden Daniels because of what he brings with his legs. But ideally, I would take a guy like Drake May. But I think any 4 of those options you're coming out of here as Patriots fans, I'd be excited. I know some people would be less excited about other options, but those would be kind of the 4 realistic items that I see the Patriots doing, and that's kind of how I rank them. So let's see how this draft falls. I know there's rumors JJ McCarthy is going to go pick 2. That honestly could be a smokescreen. I do think that Jim Harbaugh is doing a great job at promoting JJ McCarthy because it's either going to have someone trade up with Arizona at pick 4, and they're going to be able to take Marvin Harrison Jr. at pick 5, or they're going to get a haul for someone that wants to move up to pick 5 if Arizona doesn't want to trade down, and they're going to get a ton of picks for the Chargers. So Jim Harbaugh could just be playing his cards very smart. That's honestly how I think it might be going, but we'll see. So let's start this here. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, most of the time how this goes just because PFF does have an option now where you have the opportunity to go off the public board or PFF board. If you go off PFF's board, usually Drake May goes second, but Jaden Daniels usually goes off the public. So this is kind of where I'm leaning right now. Like, I do believe that Jaden Daniels is probably the favorite to go pick 2 overall because of Cliff Kingsbury, because of all the things that Washington has. So if it falls like this, I mean, I know I'm high on Drake May. Would you rather just sit here and take Drake May to get the future quarterback? Would you take Marvin Harrison Jr., or would you consider a trade down?
Well, I did see a clip earlier today during Jaden Daniels' pro day Brian Kelly was talking after the pro day, and he brought up how Jay Daniels is going to have a good time with the weapons in Washington.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he leaked that or what it was, but it seems like Daniels is a good choice to go to Washington right now. But at 3, if this is the way the board falls, I take Drake May. Young, a lot of upside, raw guy. Kind of reminds me of the Tua and Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick, the way they had Fitzpatrick start 8 games that year, or
Yeah.
however many it was, then Tua took over. I kind of see this becoming the same way with Brissett and May. So if this is the way the board falls, I take May at 3.
Yeah, and it's the same way with Justin Herbert. I know Tyrod Taylor started like 1 or 2 games, and then they had the lung puncture.
Yeah.
Same thing with Josh Allen too. Josh Allen sat behind, I believe it was Tyrod Taylor too, and in Buffalo, and then he took over after 6 or whatever games. So you've seen these guys, and you've seen so many players. I know Jordan Love sat for 4 years. I'm hoping we don't have to sit Drake May for 4 years, and I don't think we will because we don't have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers in front of him.
Right.
But you see the benefit of letting these guys sit for even 6, 7, 8 games or till your bye week, and then letting them get accustomed to the playbook, the NFL speed, the lifestyle, and then putting them in there to learn. So I do agree with you. Like I said, Drake May would be my number 1 option here. If Drake May is there at pick 3, it would be very hard for me to pass him up, just because I've been high on him forever, knowing that probably Caleb Williams is not likely to the Patriots at pick 2 or pick 3, wherever they're going to land. So I kind of turned my attention to, hey, let's focus on Drake May, and then obviously Jaden Daniels is kind of soared up there. So I'm all for Drake May if you are, and that kind of fits, fills our quarterback need, and now you're just able to double dip at receiver or double dip at O-line later on in the drafts, assuming you take one in the 2nd and 3rd round, and then later you can. So Drake May, the pick here, you feel good about that?
Definitely, yeah. I like May at the 3rd pick.
Perfect. Okay, chat, make sure you guys let us know what you guys would do if it's Drake May or how you'd grade this pick. So we'll go Drake May. Is there any thought of trading back up into the 1st round? I'm going to pause this real quick.
I've seen a couple mock drafts where the Patriots trade up either with the Packers or the Bucks, and I think it's between 24 and 26, and they go either AD Mitchell or one of those receivers. What are the knocks on AD Mitchell that I've seen just from clips on Twitter and stuff is he kind of doesn't try his hardest out there. He's kind of nonchalant a little bit. That's probably wouldn't be one of the best things to have in New England right now when you're trying to find a surefire number 1 wide receiver. Personally, right now, I probably wouldn't trade up. I think you just let it fall to 34. But I wouldn't mind trading up, especially with this year's draft. And there's some wide receiver that does fall, Brian Thomas or one of those guys. But personally, it doesn't really matter to me. I just want to see us, get some offensive weapons because I know this wide receiver class is one of the deepest it's ever been. You can probably find a stud anywhere from round 2 to 4 in this kind of draft.
For sure, and I think that because there's 19 roster spots, the Patriots have to fill. You only have 8 draft picks. I just feel like if you trade up back into the 1st round, you're definitely giving up pick 34, which is going to be replaced with whatever you trade up for. But then you're probably gonna have to give up an extra 4th. And so I'm just not for that because we have so many spots we need. So I agree with you. I love AD Mitchell. On his film, you just don't see him dominate like his numbers suggested he probably should have, based off of how he tested at the combine. If he would be my dream pick at 34. I don't think he makes it there, but I do agree. I think that there's going to be some receivers or even offensive tackles that fall to pick 34 because there's such a deep class at both of those positions. So I agree. Let's just let it run through to pick 34, see who makes it there, and then we'll kind of make our decision based off of tackle or receiver. So Mike Larry said he's big. What do you view about Xavier Legette? Have you watched any film on him or kind of studied up on him?
He's someone that I actually really like watching play. I actually love his voice. I think it's the funniest thing ever. It's so cool. But watching film, I don't know if you follow. I think it's Taylor Kyles on Twitter. He's a guy that breaks down a lot of film on college players, and he's pretty high on Xavier. I think he reminds me of DK. Same body build, he looks this overall the way his body's built. His play style, high catch point, all that kind of stuff. Fast at his weight. He's someone that I really like to grab in the 2nd or 3rd round.
Yeah, I usually try to. You said receivers the 2nd biggest need in your opinion. I totally agree with you. Offensive tackle's big, but when you look at the Patriots, I think they view Chuck Okafor, who they signed from the Steelers, as maybe the bridge left tackle and someone that could start there until they get a offensive lineman in the first round next year or something. So I think that that's kind of the bridge guy. So I do think getting a wide receiver one. Now, I'm a big fan of Xavier Legette too. Like, I'm not against taking him. He actually went one pick before us here. So we kind of get the tough end of the draw. But I'm not going to lie. If it's Xavier Legette, I'm not taking him over AD Mitchell. I'm not taking him over Lad McConkey. I would say I love Ricky Pearsall, but I'd probably take Xavier Legette just because of his size and kind of, I think he's different than any receiver the Patriots have there. So I think that Xavier Legette would probably be an option at 34 if AD Mitchell or Lad McConkey or guys like that weren't on the board. So right here, looking at the receiver board, we talked about this being the second biggest need in our mind. What do you think, or who would you take here if you were the Patriots?
I mean, I think the obvious choice here is AD Mitchell. Troy Franklin, the way he's built, his frame reminds me too much of Taekwon, and we haven't seen much out of him yet. I know his play style is a little different, but it's just kind of, this reminds me too much of Taekwon and the issues we had at him. So I hear I'd probably go AD Mitchell. I do love Slick Ricky though. I think he's one of the toughest guys I've watched film wise. Keon Coleman gives me the N'Keal Harry vibes. I know his play style is a little different, but I don't know if I do that one again. So out of the ones that we see here, I'd probably go AD Mitchell.
Yeah. Like I said, this is my dream pick. Like, if the Patriots were to get Drake May at pick 3, like we just did, and AD Mitchell at pick 34, I believe it changes the dynamic of this offense and changes how they're viewed. They're suddenly an explosive offense that has a young quarterback that can develop with a young guy. I love AD Mitchell because everyone wants T. Higgins, right? Like, T. Higgins is a guy Patriots fans have said we should trade for years. The most comped person to AD Mitchell in my mind is T. Higgins. Like, he's big. He's 6'4" or 6'1", almost 6'2", 205 pounds. Really good at the contested catches. He had 8 deep catches last year on 302 yards. So he has, he can run pretty much the whole route tree. He's fluid for his size. And then he ran a 4.34 at the combine. Like, it's just, for that size, it's freakish. And that this is the round. T. Higgins went pick 33 to the Bengals. So you're right in the same range. I don't know if AD Mitchell makes it here. I honestly don't see how, like, a team like the Chiefs pass up on a guy like him, pairing him with Rashee Rice, or maybe someone earlier in the draft takes a chance on him. But if he makes it here, he's another one that I'm sitting here and I'm like, holy crap, let's take a chance on AD Mitchell. The other thing we just talked about, there's a lot of receivers we like on this board. Is there any thought in trading down from pick 34 to maybe pick 39 or something and getting an extra 4th round pick?
That'd be something interesting. I think AD Mitchell is kind of a tier above all the other guys that are available. And I think pairing AD Mitchell with Kendrick Bourne and all those other veteran guys, he'd have some good leadership around him. And I think you'd be able to see his play kind of elevate with KB and the rest of the guys in that room. So for me, I personally stay at 34 and take AD Mitchell because I feel like if we were to trade down, you could see Washington or the Titans go with AD Mitchell here. And I just feel he's a tier above the rest of the guys that are still available.
I want to address the comments, everyone, and I know you hit on this about him taking plays off, getting caught from behind. There was another guy a couple years ago that I thought the Patriots should have drafted over Tyquan Thornton, who they took in the 2nd round, and that was George Pickens. George Pickens was a guy that people said he should have dominated. He should have been better than he is. I think George Pickens turned out to be a pretty dang good pick for where he was. So if the Patriots are just going to not draft AD Mitchell off of him taking plays off, I think that would kind of be another one that you might look back on in 3 or 4 years and say, holy crap, how did we miss on him? Or how did we take this guy over AD Mitchell and he fell to someone and now he's here? So I think he's worth the risk at pick 34 because of the talent he has. I agree with you. In tier rankings, like, he's not even close. And I love Ricky Pearsall. Ricky Pearsall is a huge, like, climber to me because of Senior Bowl and Combine, but he's not even close to the tier that AD Mitchell's in.
No, I like AD Mitchell here. I think that also one of the issues with George Pickens when he went to Pittsburgh, there wasn't any real veteran receivers in that room, if I remember correctly. I think it was him, Deontay Johnson. I can't remember who else was in that room. But
yeah, I'm trying to think.
I know Juju wasn't there. Not that I remember. I think he was a free agent that coming season. But anyways, I feel like with AD Mitchell in New England, You have KB, who obviously loves it here, back with the team. KJ Osborne, who's another great guy. I just think AD Mitchell would elevate his play in this receiver room, and you'd see him kind of take off this year.
Perfect. I totally agree with you. I'm loving how this draft's fallen so far. Drake May, AD Mitchell, suddenly all of a sudden changes the dynamic of this offense. So
yeah, those are two big needs that we needed to fill, and we filled them with the first 2 picks.
Huge needs. And now you're probably looking at, depending on what the offensive tackle board looks like. I know a lot of people are saying Patrick Paul. He has the size, the length at the in the 3rd round to probably be a developmental left tackle piece, but he could develop into something really well. So we'll see how the tackle board kind of falls right here. Assuming you don't want to double dip yet at wide receiver.
No, I think you've got to find. I can see this being I like the first 2 picks that we win. I can see this being the first 2 picks in the real draft. Then see them like double dipping at tackle with their 3rd and 4th round pick, then going receiver again. I like the way this has turned out, and you see we still got 2 good tackles available on the board, so it kind of worked out in our favor.
Yeah, Perma says that he usually takes 80 and then snags Christian Jones. Only concern about Christian Jones is I feel like he's more of a right tackle. Obviously, we locked down Michael Winu, and they've said that he's going to play right tackle.
Yeah.
So I think we're looking for a left tackle here. He also says Paul got owned at the Senior Bowl. The one thing that I look at, he's going against the best competition. Now, we know that Patrick Paul is going to be a developmental piece. We're not saying he's going to come in and probably be, a Joe Olufushanu type of guy right away. But 6'8", 331 pounds, the athleticism, you can't teach the size and the length. You can't take a 6'4" guy and make him 6'8" and have 36-inch arms. You can take a 6'8" guy with 33-inch arms, with 38-inch arms like Patrick Paul has, and develop more technique, stronger hands, better hands, hand placement. So I'm all for Patrick Paul here. Another guy, I think Dominic Pooney tested very well, but the most obvious left tackle developmental piece at this point right here is probably Patrick Paul.
Definitely. And I've seen, it's kind of funny. I usually spend, a good amount of time on Twitter, reading up on some draft players. And there was one, I think it might have been, I can't remember who it was, but they said Paul is starting to gain momentum and he's looking more as a round 1, round 2 guy. So I think if you're able to snag him at the end in the beginning of the 3rd, it's a pretty good pick.
For sure. Yes, Ryan, it's his, like I mentioned, it's his technique, right? He has the footwork. He has really good feet for his size. I believe Patrick Paul played. Now, I always get Tyler Guyton and Patrick Paul mixed up. Someone might have to help me. Either one of these guys that's freakishly big played tight end at TCU and then transferred. I actually think it's Tyler Guyton now that I'm thinking about it, because Patrick Paul's been at Houston his whole career. But
yeah, I'm not sure about that one.
You got it. You have to this is a 3rd round pick. If this guy is 6'8", 330 and has the technique like Joe Alt, he's a top 20 pick. That's why he's falling here. So you take a chance on him, kind of like DeJuan Jones last year, right? We definitely thought that DeJuan Jones was worth it, and now it's turning out he was. He has that size. He has that length. If you can make him into a dang good freaking technical offensive lineman, he's going to be a star player. DeJuan Jones goes to Cleveland. Now we have the assistant offensive line coach for the Cleveland Browns as our offensive line coach. I feel pretty dang good about taking a chance on a guy like Patrick Paul that could develop, and, with an offensive line coach like we have, could be a very, very good pick. So I'm going to ask you again, though. We talked about adding picks at some point. Patrick Paul's ADP is 84, and we're sitting here at pick 68. Can we trade down 5 to 10 picks and get an extra 5th or 6th round pick and still grab a guy like Patrick Paul?
I mean, I think you have Paul and Pooney still available at 68. I think there's a good chance if you trade down 5 or 6 spots, you can still pick up one of them guys and still be able to pick one of them up later in the round.
Mm-hmm.
I could definitely see us trading down here. I wouldn't mind it at all.
Okay, so let's see. So the Commanders are calling at pick 78. So moving down 7 picks. Let's see, if we probably wouldn't be able to get pick 100. So we'd be able to get an extra 5th round pick. And that would be 2 picks after our current 5th round pick at 139. Is moving down 10 a little bit too much? That's obviously dependent on how these teams view these tackles.
Right.
But, what's your opinion there?
10 does seem like a big jump. But you also have no idea how each of these teams view the tackles. Even if you're not able to pick one of these guys up and you pick up a different tackle, you could also double dip later in the draft. In the later in the 4th or 5th round and have 2 developmental guys on the team. Hoping that one of them works out.
Yeah. So let's look at targeting now. We're probably going to have to force a trade. So let me pull up the NFL trade value just so that we are kind of getting in the same ballpark and not really screwing a team. I would say we're trying to move down with maybe the Lions at pick 73, maybe the Falcons. Right. So let's look at the Lions. Okay, so if we were to get 73 and they don't 164 would be a 6th. So maybe if we go with Atlanta, they could give us 143. They're saying this would likely be accepted. Now, if you go to the trade value chart, pick 74 is worth 220 points and pick 143 is worth 34 and a half. So you're looking at what, 255 pretty much there. And right now, pick 68 for us is worth 250. So we're getting a little bit extra value. Pretty much lines up perfectly.
Yeah.
Are you good with offering this trade, getting an extra 5th round pick?
Definitely. I'm good with this one.
Okay, so we're only moving down a couple more picks. We're not moving down the full 10. We'll see if this bites us in the butt. We'll go ahead and roll it. Chris Jenkins, Devontae, Jatavian, Kyrie, Blake Fisher, Max Melton. So neither Pooney go. Blake Fisher, I love him, but more of a right tackle. Ryan is saying that Paul, I do think that Paul has a chance to go in the second. I think it will be the same argument as DeJuan Jones had. We don't know really what the DeJuan Jones issue was, whether it was the love of football or something, but for some reason he fell. We'll see if Patrick Paul's there now. If he goes in the second round, then it's not even a debate.
Yeah.
You know, we can't take him there. But I think now we trade down, we get an extra pick. We're able to now take Patrick Paul here. You're pretty much set on that, right?
Definitely.
Okay, let's take him there. Then we're not up. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, what if you trade back up into the 3rd round? Well, then you pretty much just undo the work that you just did to get an extra pick. Yeah, you'd be able to get an extra 3rd round pick, but you're still going to get 7 or 8 picks. You're not really gaining that extra pick. So, okay. So we have, for those of you that are new, 3rd pick, we took Drake May. At pick 34, we got A.D. Mitchell. We traded down with the Falcons to pick 74, got an extra 5th round pick, and we took Patrick Paul. So we've addressed our 3 biggest needs, and we talked about it. Do we need to double dip at receiver or tackle, or do we look somewhere else right here?
I can see us double dipping at receiver.
Okay.
This is a really deep receiver class, so I think there's a lot of good guys that are still left.
Yeah, let's take a look here. One of my favorite guys to take in the 4th round, he's obviously gone because I don't see him on the board. I'm just trying to see where he went. Malachi Corley is definitely interesting. The other one I love is Javon Baker out of UCF. I think this guy would be a steal at 4th to double dip with, develop him. Obviously, they're not there. So any receivers right here kind of interest you?
I mean, the only one that really interests me is Blake Washington. I don't even see Brendan Rice is already gone. You know, it's kind of like that 2nd or 3rd tier guys like the Baker, the Worley are gone. There's not really guys that really grab my attention right now. But I don't know a lot of these guys, like film wise, so I can tell you.
For sure. I kind of agree with Ryan here. I think where there's no Javon Baker, no Malachi Corley, no Jamari Thrash, I don't know if this is the spot to double dip with. I feel like it would be a reach in my mind. So I feel like maybe we have to look for another corner or a defensive end or something like that. And so for me, I've always looked at corner just because I feel like with losing JC Jackson and Jack Jones last year, you probably need to add a cornerback 4. So I've always looked at adding some corners, and that could be whether it's a slot guy and you want to keep Jonathan Jones on the outside, or whether that's an outside guy and you want to move Jonathan Jones on the inside to pair with Marcus Jones. So there's a couple corners I like here. Would you think of any other position on the defensive side that we would possibly need, or do you want to go tight end? Ryan says tight end could be a future need.
Tight end is a good one. We did just sign Hunter Henry to a 3-year deal and Hooper to a 2-year deal, so I see tight end being more in the 5th, 6th round, kind of a guy that you develop over the next couple years. Defensively, I think the needs that I see the most are just cornerback. I know we have a lot of young depth like Marco Wilson, Alex Austin, those kind of guys. I could definitely see us picking a cornerback here. I just don't know who we'd go with personally because, you know, we kind of have all the guys that you like in the cornerback room. The Jonathan Jones, your slot guy, Gonzalez on the outside, Alex Austin on the outside. But besides cornerback, the other position I see is edge. Just a depth guy. We did just bring back Uche and Jennings. This is Judon's last year of his contract, so he's another interesting part of the team. Besides edge, I also see safety. I like to see us bring in an actual free safety this year.
Yeah.
I like to see Duggar move kind of back up to the line of scrimmage, 'cause that seems like where he excels. Besides that, those are the only three positions I see. Not really big needs, but they are kind of needs at the end of the day.
Yeah, I've always said too, like interior defensive line is someone that I felt like, whether it's because we brought back Amfrey Jennings, Josh Uche, we drafted Keon White last year. I've always felt like more interior guys with the loss of Lawrence Guy and stuff. So I'm fine with any of them. I do agree with free safety, but I feel like the safety room in my mind with Jabril Peppers, Marte Mapu was just said that he's going to start with the
Yeah,
safeties. He's probably going to be rotating there. Plus, you have other guys. I always forget the guy out of Missouri. Joshua Bledsoe.
Bledsoe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Bledsoe. I for some reason his name slips in my mind all the time. So
yeah.
I feel like safeties would be another one later in the draft. I really like some of the corners on the board here. Sorry, that's
Me
interior
too.
offensive line. I know some guys are talking about Jarvis Brownlee. I really like him. Cam Hart is also another guy that I like. If you want a DJ James, Chris Abrams, Drain, I like any of these four guys right here.
Me too.
Now they're all different, right? Abrams Drain might be a little bit more of a slot guy in between. He can play outside. Cam Hart's one of the bigger corners in the class at 6'2.5". So, I mean, what do you like Jonathan Jones on the outside, or do you kind of want to move Jonathan Jones to the slot just because of his size?
I prefer to see Jones in the slot. It seems like
Okay.
he excelled a lot more there. That's one of his. It seems like he had kind of his best years in the slot. I know last year, it was last year, and I think maybe the year before, you put a little bit of outside. He did have some moments where it was tough for him, kind of a new position in a way. I like to see him back in the slot and another like big guy like Gonzo in the
Yeah.
outside with him.
Perfect. So some of the bigger guys here, obviously, you're going to look at Cam Hart. Jarvis Brownlee's more of an outside guy. DJ James is bigger too, and has some of those things. I would say the only really slot kind of guy I could see would be Abrams Drain, but even Chris Abrams Drain could be an outside guy. So if you had your pick of these four, I'll kind of give you the pick, or maybe I know a lot of people in the chat are saying Jarvis Brownlee. Who
I
would kind of be
haven't.
your pick?
So me personally, I haven't seen a lot of Brownlee, so I don't know much about him.
Okay. So
Um,
he's 5'11", almost 6 foot. He ran a 4.48, a little bit slow. Maybe you worry about his long speed, but I do like him. I think he plays well. You're just thinking that could kind of be an issue there. 34 and 1/4 inch arm span, so long enough. You just don't want it under 30. So Brownlee's
yeah,
good, but yeah, if you feel more comfortable with I love DJ James and Cam Hart. I think those guys are
yeah.
big time players.
I'm a big Cam Hart guy. The last couple of mock drafts I've done, I've gone with Cam Hart just because he's a bigger guy. You want that physicality on the outside. I don't know what he ran for a 40 time, or has he done it yet?
Yes, he had. Let me pull that up. He was at the combine, and he tested pretty dang well, if I
That's what
remember
thought.
right. Let's see if this will load. Now my iPad doesn't want to load, of course, when I'm trying to pull something up. Come on. Cam Hart combine.
4.5.
There you go. 4.50 flat.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty much the same as Brownlee, he's got a little bit more size and length than Brownlee.
Yeah.
And
I
he jumped pretty well, if I remember right. Yeah, almost 40 inches on the broad and almost 11 feet almost 40 inches on the vert and almost 11 feet on the broad. So pretty dang explosive too.
Yeah. Yeah, I like Cam Hart. He just gets the size to him, the physicality. Move John Jones back on the inside. You're looking at your three starting corners being Gonzo, Hart, and John Jones. I feel like the secondary in general is just one of the top in the league in my opinion, and I think adding Cam Hart would just only make that excel.
For sure. I agree with this one, Ryan. If we sign Stephon Gilmore, corner goes out, right? But obviously we can't sit here and say, oh, they're gonna sign. If we're doing the draft right now, then I think cornerback's a pretty big need. But yeah, there's been tons of rumors about Stephon Gilmore, which would be an awesome reunion.
I would love Gilmore back. He was probably one of my favorite players to watch on the Patriots when he was here. Adding him to the cornerback room would only bring a veteran presence, but also a guy that won defensive player every year, knows how to play the outside in the Patriots system. And then also, there'll probably still be a starter with the team. He wouldn't be your cornerback 1. He'd probably be a 2 or 3 just because he lost a step and he's a little bit older. But I'd love to have Gilmore back on this team.
Totally agree. But as of right now, I agree with you. Cam Hart would probably be I'd probably go Hart, DJ James, Brownlee, and then Abrams Drain. So let's go with Cam Hart here, a little bit bigger body. Now you have two guys, Christian Gonzalez, Cam Hart on the outside, Jonathan Jones, Marcus Jones on the inside. I feel pretty dang good about those four corners and nickel dime personnel, stuff like that. So I'm really liking that.
One of the guys that's kind of flown under the radar because he got hurt last year was Marcus Jones.
Yep.
And I think he's one of the more valuable players that we have in the secondary just based off his rookie year and also the start of last year. But besides that, the secondary is one of the funnest groups in the league, in my opinion.
For sure. Okay. So now we have 2 5th-round picks back to back. We got 137, 143. 2 positions. I know we talked about tight end. Another one I've always thought the Patriots love to take in the late rounds is running back. And the question mark with what they're going to do with Ramondre Stevenson. Are they going to let him walk? Is he going to be too injury prone? Are there issues there? Do they want to get another guy to develop? So I would say running back and tight end are a thing here. The other one I mentioned earlier, edge or defensive line, but you do have a pick coming up in 6 picks. So you could take one there or double dip at offensive tackle. So what are you kind of looking at here at pick 137 with our original 5th-round pick?
I love a running back in this spot. Just from the past, I know the team has also enjoyed taking running backs late. It could be different this coming off season where Mondre gets some kind of extension. I know Mondre. I love watching Mondre play, and it kind of seems like this running back class is definitely weaker just based on what we've seen guys get paid in free agency. And I don't think you have Antonio Gibson take over next year, so I definitely see there's a path for Mondre being here next year, and you have a third running back in the room that's a rookie.
For sure. So some of the guys I like sitting right here, Dylan Laube I really like, but he's just more of a pass catching back, and he's so small. Antonio Gibson filled that role. I did a pass catching back to the Patriots, a ton of mock drafts before they signed Antonio Gibson. So I don't know if that's one. Braylon Allen is a huge workhorse back, 6'2", 245 pounds, tested with a 32-inch vertical and a 9'9" broad jump. Hasn't ran the 40 yet, but he's like a true 3-down, big-bodied back in the NFL that can carry a ton of workload based off of how he played at the University of Wisconsin. He had 3.7 yards per attempt after contact, which ranked top 30. He had 682 yards after contact. Bigger body, bounces off blocks. I think if you're trying to find a guy to replace Ramondre Stevenson, Braylon Allen fits that profile so well.
Definitely, and he's also one of the younger guys we've seen. He's only 20 years old, so he's kind of raw in a way, but he also has a lot of experience under his belt as well. He's one of my favorite running backs to draft late, especially I like him and Dylan Johnson. I remember watching Dylan Johnson a little bit last year, bigger back guy. I just like the physicality that those guys bring. You don't see that as much anymore. But those are the 2 guys that I look after late in the draft.
Now, I hate scouting the helmet because I know how so many people that are like, oh, Drake May's going to suck because he went to UNC and the other UNC people suck. People were saying CJ Stroud's going to suck because no Ohio State quarterback's ever been good. I hate scouting the helmet, but there has been so much success out of the University of Washington at the running back position. Jonathan Taylor, Monte Ball was good there for a couple of years. There's been a ton. Well, James White was a guy out of Wisconsin too that the Patriots fans are familiar with. So I think that Braylon Allen, like you mentioned, have you seen the pictures of him when he first got into college and he was like 17, 18 years old and he looks like jacked out of his mind? Like it is nuts how big he was.
I think there's some pictures of us when he first entered or later, but his legs are just gigantic.
Massive.
It's actually insane that he's 20 years old.
Totally crazy. So yeah, taking a young guy like this that still has an opportunity to grow and develop and sit behind Ramondre Stevenson. That's the thing. He's going to at least get a year behind Ramondre Stevenson. He can get some goal line short yardage work, get more comfortable with the system and come in. So I like taking a guy like Braylon Allen here as possibly a Ramondre Stevenson replacement in a year.
Yeah, I like Braylon as the pick here. Young guy, brings a kind of different element to the team. He also seems like he'd fit really well in the Cleveland offense. I don't know how much you can compare him to Nick Chubb, but it seems like just based off pictures, they look kind of similar. But I think I like Braylon Allen here.
For sure. Let's take him And then we have one more pick, the extra 4th-round pick we got from the Atlanta Falcons trade. Okay, now there's a lot to go here, right? We haven't double dipped on offensive tackle or receiver like we mentioned. We obviously looked at receiver. There wasn't too many good ones. We can go back there. We said tight end, but we're pretty heavy on offense already. Do you think the Patriots look for that, front 7 type of guy? Someone asked about a linebacker. Ryan said, a chance Mayo takes a future linebacker. Still have Jawan Bentley, sign Sione Takitaki. Marte Mapu's been a guy that they've rumored to be able to play both, even though he's going to start there. So I don't know. What's your thoughts on this position right here? We're at gaining an extra 4th-round pick.
Linebacker is an interesting spot. You have Bentley, Takitaki, Tavai.
Yep.
But linebacker's kind of a hybrid spot for the Patriots.
Yeah.
You see Peppers and Duggar play in that position as well, so it's kind of hard because they don't have a lot of side-to-side lines. Like Bentley, he's more of a north-south guy along with Tavai. But those guys are still playing at a high level, so I won't be surprised if you see them taking one in the later rounds, maybe not the 5th round, but like 6th or 7th. They're also picking one up that's a UDFA and developing him under Bentley, Tavai, and Takitaki.
So would linebacker be your first position right here, or do you want to look at maybe double dipping at receiver or tackle?
I'm gonna look around, see what we have for receiver and tackle that you can double dip at.
Okay, let's take a look at some of these positions. I know we wanted to double dip at receiver. Now that we're in the 5th round, Taj Washington is another guy. He's just so small.
Yeah.
Luke McCaffrey, couple other guys scrolling down, reaching. Anyone, Marcus Rosemead, Jack Saint. Anyone here jumping out to you at the receiver spot? Cornelius Johnson, maybe.
Cornelius Johnson's the one I've seen mocked a couple times. Besides that, that's the only one that really sticks out. I'm going to keep looking around and see what we got for, tight end and offensive tackle.
Okay, so offensive tackle right off the jump. I love Javon Foster. He's another developmental left tackle piece. Now, if say Patrick Paul doesn't work out, you have a chance at Javon Foster. Walter Rouse is another guy that played mostly left tackle, well, only left tackle his year. And so, yeah, you have Tyler Guyton. He was the right tackle for the Sooners, although you project him to be a left tackle. Walter Rouse has that left tackle experience, and he's another dude that's 6'6", 320. So there's a couple pretty dang good offensive tackles right here to double dip with.
Yeah, I like both these guys, Foster and Rouse. These are both 2 guys that I think you see them possibly take later in the draft, and you have 2 guys in Paul and one of these guys that you develop and hopefully can play left tackle and be a depth guy in the future.
Yeah, the last position so far, Javon Foster is my favorite. Last position I want to hit on, and just because we talked about it, is tight end, and maybe we'll talk out of it. Theo Johnson was another guy at the combine that tested very well. I'm a big Down Holker fan, one of the better unknown tight ends in this draft. So, is Theo Johnson enough to sway you from going with Javon Foster?
I don't think so. I think you see a lot of these tight ends are kind of in a similar tier here, based off just what I've seen. And I think you can get them later in the draft. A tight end isn't a huge need. I feel like it's a guy that you take in the 6th, 7th round, and it's a UDFA that you just develop over the next couple of years because of the fact that we brought back Hunter Henry and brought in Hooper.
For sure. I thought they were going to take a tight end last year because you knew all 3 guys were going to be free agents. You re-sign Hunter Henry, you bring in Austin Hooper, Now it's like, those guys are going to be on contract. So
yeah,
I feel like if they didn't take one last year, are they really going to look for that guy? So I agree. I think other than, I know it's not the flashy pick, but the offensive line was so bad last year. You have to fix that somehow. And you take a guy like Javon Foster, who's played a ton of snaps at the University of Missouri. He's played for the last 3 years. Look, 800, almost 900 snaps every single year there. Been an iron horse. He has experience. One of the better offenses, too, for the University of Missouri. I just feel like there's really no way you can kind of mess that up. You're going to develop one of them, hopefully, ideally, maybe one of them takes over for Michael Winu, and Michael Winu slides into guard because one of the young guys doesn't work out next year. So I think taking 2 tackles is very smart because that's the one position that we didn't really address in free agency except for Chuck Okafor.
Yeah, I like Foster here. He's also in the SEC, which you see a lot of bigger D linemen come out of. It seems like there's always one guy that goes, one or two guys that are in the SEC that go in the first round, or even more guys than that play on the D line. And to see the grades that he had against some of those teams, I feel like Foster's a good chance here.
Perfect. Well, we're gonna take him, wrap up this 5-round mock draft. We will show you guys the results. Ryan says Foster and Paul's strong chance. One is the left out for sure. And ideally, maybe both of them start in 2 or 3 years. Maybe, once a winner's contract is up, he doesn't sign back because he's a little bit older. Also, maybe, he's better suited at right guard. I think he's been the best right tackle for the Patriots. So I don't know why we'd want to move him out right now. But if both of these tackles hit, you have no problem moving a winner into guard. And now you have
Definitely.
2 guys on rookie contracts, and it's just cheaper. So,
and that might be the best possibility. You have both these tackles that come in, show that they can start, play them at left and right tackle, and then you move a window back in guard, and you have a very solid offensive line there with, Paul at left tackle, Foster at right tackle, or vice versa, a window at guard. The Cole Strange at left guard is kind of in between right now. But besides that, David Andrews at center. I think that's a great offensive line.
yeah, and you took a guy like Jake Andrews last year to hopefully replace David Andrews whenever his time's up. You have guys like City Sal, Antonio Mafi, and Cole Strange already at guard. Now you just got to figure out between the 3 guys for the future, right? You have Javon Foster, Patrick Paul, and Michael Winner. You got to figure out 2 of those guys to be your tackles. Hopefully, one of these guys that we just drafted is the one that you are able to start, and then Michael Winner is obviously as good as he's been, but it just seems like you can't really miss there. So for me, I love this draft. I know Ryan says big win with this draft. I'd be pumped. We got graded an A. I mean, I don't know what it would take for me to give us an A+, but I would feel super comfortable with this draft.
Yeah,
maybe there's better receivers there in the 4th round, and you somehow double dip there with like a Javon Baker, Malachi Corley. But I'm fine taking another corner. You got to improve the secondary. I'd be fine taking a D line too. Like we both said, like this team needs talent at a ton of spots. So it's all about getting the best player available at that pick at the position you need, as long as they're not reaching for a left guard in the 1st round like they did a couple years ago. But I think we added a ton of talent at a ton of positions we needed here, and obviously get the quarterback of the future.
Definitely. I think this draft is probably. I love this draft. If we were to do this, I'd be like 110%. Let's do this. And I think you still see them pick up. Like we said before, tight end, defensive lineman in the later round, 6th, 7th round, and also we have a bunch of open spots that are UDFAs. So I feel like this is a really good draft because you pick at spots that you need talent at: wide receiver, quarterback, tackle, even running back. But this is one of my favorite drafts that I've seen so far.
Yeah, and we wanted Patrick Paul at pick 68. We trade down and get an extra pick. That's how we're able to double dip with Javon Foster, which is great value, and we're still able to get Patrick Paul there. So everything we talked about we wanted to do, and we think the Patriots needed to do: draft talent at a bunch of different positions: quarterback, receiver, tight end, or tackle, running back to potentially replace Ramondre, plus adding extra picks because they have 19 roster spots to fill, was all accomplished in this draft. And we didn't even go. The Patriots have 3 more picks if we were to go a full 7 rounds. You'd have 2 6-round picks, which you could use one to possibly move up to shorten the gap between 143 and pick 180, which I believe is their 6th-round pick. And then, you have a 7th-round pick there too. And so you still have room to add a tight end, add a defensive lineman, add someone like that we did not address in these first 5 rounds.
Definitely, and I completely agree. You still have 3 more picks. Those 3 more picks, you could go tight end, wide receiver, and your defensive lineman, and you basically hit on every single spot that you need in this draft. You still have more positions to fill with UDFAs. So, I think this is probably one of the better mock drafts I've seen.
I would hope so. I mean, it seems like a lot of people in the comments are pretty satisfied with it, which honestly do you post a lot of mock drafts on your channel too? I swear you can never please. You could draft Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Marvin Harrison Jr., and they'd still find a way to say this draft sucks.
There's always someone in the comments that's like, this draft's terrible, blah blah blah. It's like, okay,
yeah. So
I'll try to see what I can do for the next one. Then there's always some other guy.
Well, the other thing
you can't please everyone.
You can never please everyone, but then everyone just I've done 14 mock drafts on this YouTube channel, one every Monday since Christmas time. Like, I'm not going to just draft Jaden Daniels every time at pick.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to give different perspectives, different routes, because we all know, hey, just 2 years ago, the Patriots shocked everyone and traded down and then took a left guard that was probably going to be a late second, third round pick. So we're just trying to get, I'm just happy someone, the majority of the chat seems to like what we did, because it's not very often that happens with the stuff we do.
Yeah, you definitely don't see that very often. And you know, I think me and you, especially with our mock drafts, we try to bring a different perspective, like you said. Don't try to stay with the same guy every single pick. You know, bring in different perspectives, bring in different guys. But it's just the fun of the off season.
It is
mock draft. That's why it's called a mock draft. It's not
for
real.
Sure.
But yeah, I love doing it.
Someone yelled at me in my comments like 2 months ago. It was like in February, like, mock drafts are so pointless. And I'm like, I know, but like, what do you want me to like? I'm just sorry. I'm trying to provide content. And so it's funny. Mock drafts are fun. They're crazy. I guarantee, or, you know, I'd be shocked if any of us have done a perfect mock draft for the Patriots. Like, we just don't know, right? Like, we don't know if the Jaden Daniels at pick 2 hype is real. We don't know if JJ McCarthy is going to be a top 4 pick or if that's a smokescreen. Like, we thought Will Levis was going second or first overall last year, 3 hours before the NFL draft, and he falls to the second round. So you have no clue what's going to happen.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen. Usually, like a week before the draft happens, I try to put out my most realistic one.
Yep.
But it's never even close. So it's just fun. It's just fun. It's a fun thing to put out for your fans and followers during the off season, and I enjoy doing it.
For sure. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on. Guys, again, if you don't follow him, it's Patriots.Force on Instagram. Make sure you go follow him. He has some of the best graphics, too. Every time I see you post your graphics, I'm like, straight fire, bro. Straight fire.
I appreciate that, man.
Best graphics, good Patriot content again. And then, of course, we appreciate you coming on and giving your kind of perspective on what the Patriots are going to do. And hopefully you can come on again, you know, whether it's at draft time or before or whatever, maybe share our opinions on how they actually did draft. And hopefully it's close to what we just did, because that's a pretty dang good draft.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, and it was fun. And hopefully I'll be on again soon, and we can discuss some more draft prospects and discuss, you know, how the draft went.
For sure. Well, guys, appreciate everyone in here. Couple new faces, Ryan, Perma, appreciate all the comments, of course, guys. Like, we just appreciate all the support. If you guys haven't, make sure you guys like the video, like, subscribe, comment. We turn your notification bell on, because whenever we go live or I upload a new mock draft, you guys will get notified for that. Then, of course, follow me on Instagram at foxborough.faithful and Dylan at patriots.force. And until next time, guys, and hopefully it's sooner rather than later, we'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Patriots Drive podcast. Follow us on social media to stay up to date with all things New England Patriots. Make sure you tune in to the next episode and check out patriotsdrive.com for more great content.
We're on to Cincinnati.